everyone happy for me to begin? Yeah. Cool. Hey everyone. Today I'd like to talk about the Power Platform build tools on Azure DevOps. I'm David Robertson. Shut the door, yeah. I'm David Robertson. I'm a software engineer lead at Capgemini, part of the Microsoft Apps and Cloud Engineering team. First of all, I'd like to thank our sponsors. Without them, this wouldn't be possible. We wouldn't all get to attend. I wouldn't be here speaking, getting to meet lots of you, and also getting to learn lots of new content and stuff like that. So thank you to all our sponsors. Cool, so I'd like to give a bit of a brief overview on what the Power Platform build tools on Azure DevOps are, and what you can kind of use them and do with them. Oops, that was power. Does that come back?
Was that the TV or your laptop?
I think that was the laptop. The TV, sorry.
It looks like the TV.
Yeah.
We'll know in 60 seconds, won't we?
End of the session. Maybe
Yeah.
some buttons on the side, maybe.
Yeah.
Press a volume button or something.
Yeah, that might be a good idea. Let's see.
Is there...
It's not 4 hours standby mode, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's about right.
How do you do it?
A big white panel there?
There,
Yeah.
There we go. For another 4 hours. Awesome. So yes, I'd like to talk about Power Platform build tools on Azure DevOps and give you a little bit of an overview. So, first thing. Hello, welcome. Come join in. Data presentation.
It's not easy to sneak in the back of it.
Cool. So,
Yes.
So I'd like to give an overview on the Power Platform build tools on Azure DevOps and what you can kind of do with them. So first point is you can synchronize the solution metadata. So you can export your solutions and download them and commit them to source control like Git or a repo. You can generate build artifacts, so your solutions that you're going to deploy to downstream environments. You can also deploy to downstream environments, and also you can provision or deprovision environments, so spin them up, delete them. Or you can perform checks on your solutions as well, using the Power Apps Checker service to check the health and making sure it's following best practices and stuff like that. Cool, so one of the first things I'd like to talk about is source control. I mentioned that earlier, that you use this as part of your Power Platform build tools on Azure DevOps. Source control is the practice of tracking and managing changes to software code. This allows you to do stuff like see history, so what has been changed. So, for example, you might have an issue in production, you can go back and see what's been changed since that release, and it'll enable you to do easier debugging and troubleshooting. You can also rebuild solutions and environments. One of the old ways people used to do things is they'd have their dev environment, they'd have their unmanaged solutions. Sorry, no worries. But they'd have these dev environments. They might back them up or not back them up, for example. But this is the only place where you'd have your unmanaged solutions. Now, what happens if you lose access to that dev environment? Obviously, if you have source control, you have your access to your solutions and the components and the metadata, so you can quickly build them up and get access to them again. Also, you can prevent conflicts. So if developers are working on the similar components or same components, you can check for conflicts to make sure that doesn't occur, or you can put in processes in place as well to manage that when that does happen. And you can also put in review processes, so when you've made a change or you've done something. Hello, come in.
Sorry.
No worries. So you can put in review processes, so when someone's changed something, another developer or someone else can go and check what changes you've made, and make sure it all makes sense, make sure you follow best practices and guidances and stuff like that, before bringing it into your code base. So I'm just going to switch to Chrome now for a moment and show you the repo that I've set up for an example of this on using Power Platform build tools. Cool, you should see my repo here. We've got 3 main folders, but it's just a collection of folders and files. The first folder is build. This contains a couple of YAML files which is used for building our solutions and exporting and unpacking, which I'll give some more detail on later. A couple of scripts. Also a package folder, which is going to be using package deploy template as part of this, which enables you to automate some of your deployment processes and manage them with some files and stuff like that as code, which I think makes some things quite simpler. And also we have a solutions folder. Oh, hello, sorry, no worries. Sorry. We also have a solutions folder here, which is your extracted source control data solutions, which is unpacked. So it's all the metadata in the different files, as you can see here, which describe your system. Cool. So that is source control. Great, so the next part I'm going to talk about is exporting and unpacking solutions to source control. So exporting, fairly obvious, you download the solution from your dev environment or wherever it is. Unpacking is taking a compressed solution file and it decomposes into multiple XML files so that these files can be more easily read and managed by a source control system. So for example, like what I showed you earlier on the source control, had your solution, which in that instance it was named core, and it's got the different components and different files there to describe your system. I've also going to show you a little bit about how you can do this using the YAML pipelines. First of all, so as doing this, you're probably going to want to make a change in Dynamics. In your repo, you've got this concept of branches. You don't want to work on your main branch. You want to do it on a branch that you create, which you'll then merge in later. I'm going to create a new branch for this. I'm going to call this add new field to contact. Cool. Now, if I was going to go into Dynamics, I've got a solution here called core. I'm only going to be updating this solution for now, and I'm going to add a new field to contact. Cool, I'll just call that new field free. Just create it as simple single line of text. And publish customizations. Cool, while that is doing that, I'm going to talk you through how we export and unpack that into source control in this part of this solution. So we go to pipelines. We have this build or pipeline called export and extract Power Platform solutions. I'm going to run this pipeline. As you can see here, you have to select your branch. It defaults to main, but you do not want to run it against main because part of this, well, yeah, because otherwise, actually it'll prevent you from doing it. But you don't want to commit changes directly without that review process, which we talked about earlier, because you want to make sure it's all good before going in.
Can you overwrite that default? Is it always made?
It's always, because the other ones are only temporary normally, you can't, it's not easy to override, but I have got a solution which I'll show you as part of this coming up shortly.
Cool.
So what I'll do is I'll run this against add new field to contact. Now you've got a list of solutions to export and unpack. I've only edited core here, so I only care about core. So I'm going to get rid of workflows. You can actually select multiple of these as well. So say you wanted to work on core and workflows at the same time, you can select both of them, and I'll actually run for both of those solutions at the same time. But I'll show you how that works in a moment. So I'm just going to check my publish finished, which it has. I'm going to run that.
That YAML file you've got there, is that a standard one, or is that one you've done yourself?
It's one I've done myself, and I'm going to show you what the parts, the bits and pieces, whilst this is running. Cool. So the first main bit is parameters, which is the solutions. This allows you to define your solutions which you're exporting and unpacking. It's quite simple. If, say, you added a new solution, you can just put that and type in the name of the solution. If you wanted to add new solutions that you're going to manage as part of this pipeline. We've then got some PowerShell script here, which is just to say if it's run on main or master, depends on what it's named in your Azure DevOps or your repo, throw an error straight away. You don't want it to wait to the end of the pipeline where it's going to try and commit it. Otherwise, you're going to be sitting there waiting for 10 minutes and then it's just going to fail. So that happens straight away. We've then got this each solution and parameter solutions, which means, well, first of all, you need to install the Power Platform tool installer. And then we've got this for each solution and parameter solutions run the below tasks. The first task is to export the unmanaged solution of what's being selected in the parameters. The next step is to export the managed solution. And the reason we want to do both of them is because then you can commit it and source control it and unpack it as type both, so that you can actually create both of them unmanaged or managed depending on what you require at the time, sort of thing. Normally we'd do managed if you're deploying it, but for example, if you've got a hotfix situation and you want to spin up an environment based on what prod is current state, you can then get access to your unmanaged solutions as well, so you can troubleshoot based on them and apply fixes. So yeah, we've got the unpack solution here, which takes it and does the solution files and it extracts them and turns them into a load of XML files. We then have this final bit of script here, which basically, using what's been exported and extracted, it will then go and do a commit on your story branch. And that's it for the export and extract Power Platform solutions. Let's see, hopefully, that pipeline has worked. And it's still running. And it's still running. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's how it looks. As you can see here, tool installer, export solution. It's done the 2 export solutions. The unpack, which is very quickly, and it's just finalizing now, so this won't take very long. And there we go. Cool. So now once you've done that, you probably want to bring it into your main or your master branch. You might want to do a CI/CD process with automated testing on environments in between this sort of thing, but that's not in the scope of this topic for now. I'm more concerned talking about the solutions and the solution management as part of application lifecycle management. So I'm going to go ahead and raise a pull request. Cool. As you can see, solution updates, it's given that title automatically. As I'm going to review the files. As we can see, we have a new field as part of there, which has been changed. And we can see that as part of the definition. It's the only one that's changed, so it looks good to me. I'm going to create. Normally I'd ask someone to review, or a team member to review, but in this instance, I'm just going to complete it. And complete merge. There we go. That should now be part of our master branch, or main branch. Cool, the next part I want to talk about is package deployer. Got a bit eager there. So, why use package deployer? And this is optional, you don't have to use this as part of this. I just find it wraps things up nice and simpler in some ways, and there's also a task for deploying a package, so you can do one task in your release to kind of do all your solutions, but you can also have release tasks for individual solutions as well. Also, you can automation of the import of one or more solutions. You can import flat files or export data from the configuration manager. So if you've got reference data, configuration data, you can include that as part of it with some limitations. And also you can execute custom code as well as part of that. So you might have pre or post deployment steps you want to run as part of your deployment. So you can execute that as part of package deployer. So it does extend and add a lot of functionality that you can use to make things easier. Cool. Now on to build, release, its package and solution. You need to build the package deploy project as part of your build. Then you output the build or pack of the solution files to the package. And then also you might want to implement some solution versioning. There are some Power Platform build tasks to do solution version, but I've implemented something a little bit more custom that I think makes it a little bit easier and easier to manage. And I will go through it and show you that now. Cool, the build pack has just run as it's a CI/CD trip. And I will show you what's inside it. first part here is custom version for the build. We've got a counter here that increments every time you do a build on like a major minor, which matches the solution version for Dataverse solutions, the schema. We've got trigger that this runs on main, so every time main is updated, this will run. It's also got parameters, list of solutions. In this one, because it's automatic, you don't select it. This is just to use each solution again for each, so you can iterate through them. We've got a couple of scripts here. PowerShell add build tag for updated solution. I can show you that briefly. So what this does is, using some Git functionality as part of the repo, what you can actually do is you can detect which solutions or which files have changed. And this is an important part of the versioning, if you want to know which solutions have changed as part of your PR, as part of your merge. We've also got this next version, this next script, which, taking the output list, will then go and update the solution XML file to add your build number version so that they're all aligned. So you always, when you've got the solutions, you can see which build and then tie it in nicely with your repo and your code and whatever changes you've made. So it gives you much more traceability between your code and your environments and your systems, so you know what's going on. Next part is to restore the CDS package, which is the package deploy project. Then you need to do a build on it. You then copy the files from the release into build artifact staging directory. You then install the Power Platform tool installer. You then, for each solution, you do a pack, and you output it to this location here in the artifact staging directory, the package folder, which is where you kind of store your solutions, linking in them with that package deployer. Publish build artifacts, and that should output your package deployer project and your solutions. And I'll show you that now on the build. So this is the job that's just run. We've got one artifact produced, solutions folder. We can see the package deploy project here, package folder, which has the import config, which is your definition of what your solutions you're deploying and how you want to deploy them. In the list of them, you also have your managed solutions here, which you can see, and also your unmanaged solutions here. So they're tied up and they're ready to be deployed. And that is how, in this solution, you can build pack them and the solution versioning. And I guess the final step of this is to release it, right? You've got your build, you've got your artifacts, you want to release it into a downstream environment. Now, one of the things I like about this one is the simplicity involved. The release per environment is as simple as 2 tasks. Power Platform tool installer, and then just deploy package where you link to that DLL file that's outputted as part of the build. And for each environment, you just need to add that tool installer and deploy package, and that would, you know, Bob's your uncle. So that's the end of the presentation. I would like to say a couple of things on this, that this is, this is only to just get you started, and it's not going to scale to massive teams like this. However, I think for some people, if they haven't got any repos, if they're not source control and stuff, and they want to do something very quickly in a couple of days to get started and get protected and give all that traceability, I think this could help, to contribute to that. So yeah, thank you. Last slide. Sorry about that.
You were preemptive.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you.